What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. Good morning to everybody. Saturday, November 11th here. We got Jesse with us. We're going to be going over our favorite props for week 10. We're doing a little bit different of a format in this one. Jesse and I already hung out for a little bit. We put our list together. We're going to present that, and then we'll get into the games. Jesse, good morning. How are we doing today?
Good morning. We're doing good. Got the coffee brewing. We're live from Everbank Stadium over here. It's a little breezy, but I think we're set up for a great game.
So we're excited about San Francisco and Jacksonville, both coming off buys, by the way. And I like that it's AFC versus NFC. It could be like a playoff style kind of game where it's competitive and just some good football being played over there. So we're excited about that game. But before we get into the games, we're going to present the list of props that we like for this week. We had a good week last week. We went 5 of 7. So hopefully you guys were looking at some of those on the year. We're 34 of 65. 52%. We got to get that up. I think this week's a week that we feel pretty dialed in with our numbers. So, Jesse, I'll let you kind of take it away here. What bets are we looking at?
Sure. Yeah, we can kind of just work from the top down and kind of do a little alternation style here. Starting with Austin Eckler, anytime touchdown. I think the key to Chargers winning games and controlling the game is through Austin Eckler. Especially with no Josh Palmer, no Mike Williams, Quentin Johnson not really breaking out yet as that wide receiver 2. You have 2 guys. You have Keenan Allen and you have Austin Eckler, who you see we like both of. Eckler with a touchdown. He's just kind of the guy around the red zone, whether they dump it off to him, give him a little shovel pass, or let him run the ball in a game where I think Detroit, I think Detroit might get ahead, control a little bit, force the Chargers to pass it. But I think it's going to be a good game environment in general. And I like to see Eckler doing his classic guitar solo.
And then I did want to note, because we have to note that the Lions are pretty dang good against running backs right now. I just want to see the fantasy points allowed here. Lions are the second best team against the running backs here, only allowing about 15.84 PPR points per game to the running back, but they have allowed 4 rushing touchdowns. No receiving touchdowns, though, so maybe Eckler puts one on the board in this column. We'll see. But we do like Austin Eckler to score -130. Christian Kirk, one of the big guys in this San Francisco Jacksonville game that we like a lot. 54.5 receiving yards seems kind of low for him. We expect him to kind of be the lead target in this one. And I'm not sure if San Fran mostly plays man coverage. I think they're mostly man coverage, more of a not so much a zone team. But off a bye, Christian Kirk, still no Zay Jones, by the way. Tell us why we like Christian Kirk over 54.5.
Yeah, so over 54.5, I think, right up front, when you look at what Christian Kirk has been doing, it's 90-yard games, it's 70-yard games, 100-yard games. Sprinkle a couple 40-yard games in the mix there. But what we really like against San Francisco is he gets to play in the slot where, since week 5, San Francisco's allowed the 3rd most points per target from the slot, 3rd most receiving touchdowns from the slot. So I think this is a game, again, another great environment. We want to highlight these games that are good. If we're taking overs, we want good game environments. We don't want low-scoring Baltimore-Cleveland matchups. We want passing opportunities. And in this one, I think Kirk can really take advantage of Oliver in the slot.
Number 3 on the flip side here, we have Brock Purdy over 1.5 passing touchdowns. It's -105. Everybody's healthy. You got a healthy Debo. You have a healthy Trent Williams. Of course, CMC, a full healthy week, getting himself right. And then, of course, Kittle and Ayuk have been playing well and scoring touchdowns. So we like Brock Purdy over 1.5 passing touchdowns. I do want to pull up real quick. How many times has he thrown? And that was kind of his stat last year. Basically, he had 2 touchdowns in every single game so far this season. And I know he's been struggling with the touchdowns in the last few games here, but I feel like he's due for a little bit of course correction. 2, 2, and 4 touchdowns in 3 games this season. I think he's probably regressing back towards his mean. What do you think about Brock Purdy over 1.5?
Yeah, I mean, this is a game that we're hoping to see a lot of points from. Brock Purdy needs to get back on track. The 49ers need to really get back on track. This would be a big win for them. They're 5-3 coming off 2 in a row, going to the bye, getting healthy, getting right. I mean, the stats with Debo versus no Debo are pretty eye-opening. So, with Debo back into the fold, I think that gives them their full arsenal to really kind of lock in and make this a fun game.
And what I like about the Purdy 1.5 is if the 49ers are going to win the game, there's a good chance that it's Purdy over 1.5. Even if the 49ers were to lose the game, that means they're throwing and having to play from behind. So I think that's kind of like a built-in pretty good bet. And then number 4 is we like Deontay Johnson over 63.5 receiving yards, -115 against Green Bay. No Jair Alexander in this one. The Packers, of course, traded Rasul Douglas a couple weeks ago, so they're hurt in the secondary, and I believe the starting safety Darnell Savage is still on IR. So the Packers secondary is a target here, and Deontay Johnson has been over this prop. I believe he's had 3 really good games in his return. He finally scored a touchdown. Maybe the momentum keeps him rolling. 63.5 receiving yards for Deontay. We're both in agreement there. Any notes on Deontay, Jesse?
No, I think you nailed it. Since he's come back, he's hit that every single game. He is the number 1 receiver for Kenny Pickett. He's kind of a security guy in a game that I think they're going to be able to throw the ball against Green Bay.
And 79 yards, 85 and 90, and then his first touchdown in 20 games. So maybe watch him score another touchdown in this one. That totally wouldn't surprise me.
Go on a run, yeah.
And we were talking before the show is that we're kind of into these number 1 wide receivers with low receiving yard totals in the 60s, and it's DeAndre Hopkins here at 61.5 yards. He did not. I don't think he hit this last week against whoever they were playing.
Yeah, it was 4 catches for 60 yards on 11 targets. So, really at the end of the day, when you look at that number, you're thinking 11 targets. He gets you 5 catches. He's breaking the 61.5 for sure. So
and he was right there too. He actually did get the 5 rushing yards too. So he was over.
There you go.
But I think 17 targets from Will Levis. He's the clear go-to guy. No Treylon Burks in this one again. And Tampa Bay, we highlighted this before the show. Tampa Bay is one of the worst teams against wide receiver right now. In terms of receptions, they've allowed 119, which is ranking 25th here. And in terms of yards, Tampa Bay is 30th, allowing almost 16 to 1,700 yards and a lot of touchdowns too. So it's a really good matchup here for Titans wide receivers. We like that one. And then Keenan Allen, 6.5 receptions, -140. Tell us about Keenan Allen.
Yeah, I mean, Keenan Allen, this kind of just reiterates the a little bit of the Eckler vibe where there's 2 main people in town there for Justin Herbert to throw the ball to, and Keenan Allen at 6.5. I know he's been hitting that a ton, and on the other side of the ball, just looking at what Detroit's given up, it's Adam Thielen with 11 catches. It's some of these more alpha receivers on their teams getting the work and allowing it. Yeah, I mean, just look at the numbers there. So back-to-back weeks, he's hit that. He had the 1 4 catch blitz, but outside of that, he's pretty much a pretty good lock to catch 7 to 9 balls most weeks.
And I'm pulling up a tool here on FF Today. Love FF Today. You can click lines against wide receiver, and you can actually see how many. That button doesn't work. You can actually see how many stats players have gotten against the Lions in this situation. So Tyler Lockett hit 8 receptions. Adam Thielen 11. Romeo Doubs 9. Come down here. Godwin and Metcalf both hit 6, so that'd be right there. I think Keenan Allen's a tier above those guys. Let's see here. Anybody else hit that number here, but it does appear that good receivers can take advantage of this Lions secondary. And again, we mentioned it's Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler. That is the show over there. And then we're getting to one of our favorite ones here. This was when I was filling out my list, and you guys have all these props to consider that I filled out here: touchdowns, reception, yards, all that good stuff. The one that stuck out to me when I was making the list was Garrett Wilson, over 66.5 receiving yards. Jesse, take it away.
Yeah, Garrett Wilson, he's been kind of our go-to guy for the last couple of weeks because he's getting treated like a wide receiver 2 on these books, but he is the alpha there in town for Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson's kind of a guy where when you look at he's even catching 8 balls, 7 balls. He's been just a complete dominant alpha. This is like Devontae Adams with Aaron Rodgers type numbers. Aaron Rodgers loves to steal. That's probably what he'd be doing too in this offense because he's got Breece Hall, he's got Garrett Wilson. Breece not getting as many targets, but there's no wide receiver 2 in town to speak of. And Zach Wilson, at the end of the day, if he's in trouble, he's just kind of chalking it up to Garrett Wilson. He's like, hey, maybe I'm going to let my wide receiver 1 try and figure it out. And he's usually good for at least a 1 or 2 large catches during the game. And then that really is all you need to hit the 66.5. So, and I mean, I'm not looking at the other side of the ball with the Raiders. I mean, the Raiders have allowed the yards, the wide receivers.
Yeah.
It's a game that we like. It's a primetime game. So give you something to root for on a Sunday night, right?
All right. So Garrett Wilson over. And then we're going to start to do this more often here with our number 8. And this is something that we've talked about on the show a lot for the last couple of seasons. And it's these combo bets. Whenever you see Especially, we like it for receivers, I think, the most. Whenever you see a receiver duo like Brandon Ayuk and Debo Samuel here, the Debo touchdown is plus 160 to hit, and the Ayuk touchdown is plus 170. Now, if you take Brandon Ayuk separately to score and Debo separately to score, you only need one of these guys to hit that touchdown to make profit. Now, if both guys score a touchdown, it's a 2.5x profit, which feels pretty good. And again, we highlighted liking Brock Purdy to go over 1.5 passing touchdowns. And hey, Debo can even run one in. He has that in him too. So there's an opportunity here for both guys to hit. Jesse, you love this game. Why do we like this Ayuk Debo Samuel combo so much?
Yeah, right. I mean, you pretty much hit it. This is a correlation play with our Brock Purdy over 1.5 passing touchdowns. So this is a back to regression, back to the norm for Brock Purdy. This is not oh, maybe he gets you 2. Like, this is what he does, especially when Debo is healthy. He throws touchdowns to his receivers. The defense is not going to be able to lock in on Brandon Ayuk like they've been able to do the last few games. We've seen George Kittle step up a little bit. When Debo comes back into town, I think we're going to see a little bit more back to what they were doing when they were on a 5-0 win streak, and now they're 3 losses in a row. So I think Debo's a big part of that underneath stuff, and I think we're going to see Purdy a lot more comfortable tomorrow, especially getting Trent Williams back.
Yeah.
This one feels really good to me. I mean, you get 1, you're feeling good. You get the 2, you're feeling extremely good, because then you just hit Brock Purdy over 1.5, and you hit both your receivers.
So we just confirmed George Kittle 2 touchdowns tomorrow.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. So that's how
we still hit the Brock Purdy over. So that's, at the end of the day, it's like you're kind of hedging that, like, if Brock Purdy hits one of those guys and then hits Kittle, it's nice because you hit the Brock Purdy over. Feel good about that. You hit one of your receivers, so you're still in the end in a solid green spot.
There's really only 4 guys that can score a touchdown for the 49ers, not including Brock Purdy. So hopefully it's one of these 2, if not both. But that's our bet list for the week here. We listed 8 props for you. We're hoping to hit 5 to 6. I think that's the kind of the sweet spot. Obviously, if we can hit 7 or 8, that would be great as well. But I think we put together a pretty good list. And now, we got time here. What game do we want to open up and discuss in a little bit more detail?
So I would like to I know we were talking about it before the show started, and I just realized looking at the list that we didn't put any of your CeeDee Lamb props on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do we want to just touch real quick on Cowboys and what we expect from this game? Because I think it's going to be backups in the fourth quarter, but I think CeeDee's going to be able to do some damage.
17-point home favorites for the Cowboys. I don't know if I've seen a 17-point spread in the NFL for a while.
Tommy DeVito.
So CeeDee Lamb is the best scoring option, I think, in this game, minus 110. It feels like that is going to happen. Like, we could easily put that on the list. Maybe we do run it up. Maybe we put 10 bets on the list.
Hey, we're gonna get this. We're gonna get it tomorrow for this. Maybe we need 10 bets. I mean, CeeDee Lamb.
We're gonna add a CeeDee Lamb bet here, and then throughout the course of the show, we'll identify one more player or situation that we like quite a bit here. But the Dak is back. I think that's the main important thing. Mike McCarthy has kind of finally figured it out, and it seems like letting Dak throw to his best players is the answer here. So CeeDee Lamb touchdown, even minus 110 feels good. I do want to point out Tony Pollard minus 160 looks pretty good as well. But the rushing numbers, receiving numbers for Lamb, 77.5. The dude's gone over 100 yards, I think, in 3 straight games. He's just been on a tear. So minus 115 for CeeDee Lamb there. And then the receptions is where he's been phenomenal. 5.5 minus 150. I know it's minus 150, but either way, that's a 50% hit basically. If you put a $10 unit on there, you're going to get 1666 back. So all of the Lamb overs look really good in this one. Do you have anything to add on CeeDee Lamb?
Yeah, I mean, it's 3 straight of absolutely crushing both of those lines. So I think Vegas is looking at this one thinking we're going to limit CeeDee because they're not going to be playing in the second half. CeeDee Lamb could put those stats up in the first quarter, and no one would be shocked. This is one where you could kind of just get in. Dak does 2 drives and hits CeeDee Lamb for a touchdown, 4 or 5 grabs, and you're relaxed on that one. So,
and honestly, look at week 1, dude. It was 40-0, 40-0 in New York. CeeDee Lamb still he was right there, 4 for 77. In that game, I don't think it's going to be 40-0. And I believe the Cowboys defense scored a bunch of times. I believe Tony Pollard in the rushing game scored. Dak didn't throw a touchdown in that game. So I don't expect it to be that 40-0 weird game. It could be, and I
Probably gonna
think.
be 50-0.
But if it was, that means CeeDee Lamb was heavily involved in that one. So ride the hot hand with CeeDee Lamb. Anything else to note here in this ugly game? Jake Ferguson's the other guy I have to shout out. He's he's taken over as he's the number 2 receiver right now. He had 10 targets last weekend, so over 3.5 receptions, minus 140 feels good to me. And
Hmm.
his yardage prop was pretty low. He had a career day in yards. I think he hit 91 yards last weekend. So 36 and a half feels too low. And then the other thing that I wanted to note here is it's low hanging fruit, but Dak over 1.5 passing touchdowns feels pretty good to us at minus 160. But anything else to note for you? Are we locking in that Danny Tommy DeVito interception at minus 230 for no money?
That's crazy. How many carries for Saquon Barkley this week? That's
I will go. I'll put his touches at 25 to 30 total touches with carries and maybe 4 or 5 receptions. Maybe we should look at his receptions real quick.
yeah. I mean, this is a game where they have any chance Saquon has a big game.
3.5 receptions.
I mean, DeVito, you gotta give DeVito the layups because we've seen what trying to throw deep looks like.
Yeah. So
10-pound
um,
medicine ball out there.
just for fun, I want to look and see what that Cowboys defense is. They're oh my plus
Wow,
290 for a
that's got to be that
Cowboys.
might be a record.
I do want to note, I don't think Kevontae Turpin's going to play in this one. It looks like they're going to hold him out. Their ace special teams return man. So if it does happen, it's going to have to be, through the Cowboys interceptions, fumbles, sacks, whatever, things like that. But the other thing I want to note here too is keep an eye on Jalen Tolbert. Just file his name away. If you want to stash him, I think he's been operating as their number 3 receiver over Michael Gallup in situations. But we spent too much time on the Cowboys. We love CeeDee Lamb. Saquon Barkley, man, still he's the offense. Don't shy
Mhm.
away from CeeDee Lamb. But Jesse, pick a game for us to look at.
Yeah, I mean, just one that might be an underrated game is Titans Buccaneers. I think it
Oh,
was a good game environment last week. I think the week before Buffalo put up 24. I think Tampa defense is it's it's a good aging defense, but I think they've obviously shown that they're susceptible. But on Tennessee side, that's not a great defense at all from
yeah.
Tennessee. So we like Derrick Henry in this one at plus odds to get into the end zone. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are both on the board to potentially score touchdowns this week.
That could be the same thing with Ayuk and Debo, like we did here. Basically, it's the same numbers. You're betting
Mhm.
on one of these guys to score, if not both.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Hopkins at 185. I mean, this is a fun little game environment. I think it will go low owned and DFS. It'll people might not be too excited to play these guys, but I think you could be surprised that this could be both teams getting to the 20s this week, and we have a little bit of fun in Tampa. It's going to be warm, 81 degrees. It's going to be good game environment.
The other thing too is like they've
39 is
officially named Will Levis as the guy. So like maybe he's
yeah.
got that swag in him now, where it's like, okay, like here you go, kid. Like let's see what you can do. This could be a fun environment here. And also want to note, Rashad White's been playing lights out the last month.
It
Um,
is very good.
Definitely in PPR leagues. He finally got the 2 rushing touchdowns last week, but this game is a sneaky game here. There's a lot of guys that could score touchdowns, and I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Tajay Spears, Kate Otten, Chico Conquo, if other guys made plays in this one. So I think
Yeah,
we're liking the over. We're liking the over in this one. It
I was
sounds
just about to say if you're into the over under type plays, then I think the over on this one looks really nice.
yeah. So fun game here. Did you want to look at anything else? I want to look at the passing props because that's kind of where we're going here. Both guys at 1.5 passing touchdowns, and they're both positive to hit these
Yeah,
numbers. So maybe this is one of those games. Like, okay, so you know how we just did the Godwin Evans and the Ayuk Debo.
yeah,
You take Mayfield to hit his prop, and you take Will Levis to hit his prop
yeah.
separately. This could be a game where one, if not both, hit. And honestly, that's a fun idea for the future. Is find these games where
Well, yeah.
quarterbacks could throw touchdowns.
I
So
mean, these defenses aren't scary by any means. Like I
correct.
said, there's not much to be afraid of. I mean,
Uh,
like you highlighted the Bucks have just been getting, recently the Bucks have gotten, it's trending in the wrong way for the Bucks.
they've allowed 13 passing touchdowns on the year. That ranks 25th. But again, they're allowing the most fantasy points to the quarterback position. Tennessee's been okay, but they're really bad against wide receivers. I don't know why Tennessee is so stout against quarterback, but so bad against wide receivers. That makes no sense.
Hmm. Yeah,
So,
it's a little odd, but yeah, the receivers they get theirs, especially, I mean, they trade away their all-pro safety, it's not gonna get better.
all right, who's throwing an interception in this game?
They like Will Levis -125. And I think I mean, I think honestly, Will Levis -125 feels pretty good
Yeah,
versus Baker's -120. I feel Baker's not afraid to chuck it though.
correct. But fun atmosphere here. Let's just click into this 49ers Jags game because I think this. So one thing I wanted to point out here, we have the DraftKings game line tool on the fantasyfellowship.com. If you filter by game total, um, great games this weekend. Lions, Chargers, Bengals, Texans. We're going to probably kind of poo-poo that one down the
Yeah,
line here. Bills, Broncos is good. Seattle is a good game. But here's your 49ers. I did want to note too, because I update these numbers every other day. 49ers was at 46 and a half total implied. It dropped down to 44 and a half. So if for me, my signal was I should take the over on that because it dropped a full 2 points. And that's
mhm.
kind of what we're liking here. But again, we've talked a lot about touchdowns here. Did you want to highlight anything else on the touchdown department?
Yeah, I mean, we for sure thought, we highlighted the 49ers. We think Purdy gets back on track. And on the Jag side of the ball, it's, yeah, keep on humming. Travis Etienne, multiple touchdown rushing games. The guy's playing as, what is he, a top 5 RB right now in the league? Playing at a really high level. We like Christian Kirk. Calvin Ridley doesn't have great matchups this week on the outside. Ward, pretty good corner. The outside corners in general are pretty solid but at the end of the day, I think they really do want to get Ridley going, and I imagine off a bye, it's going to be let's get our wide receiver one, let's get them going, and then you're touching on Evan Ingram here, who has still to score a touchdown,
Has not scored a touchdown this year.
but the yards are good. Like he's
Yeah.
getting the targets, which is kind of crazy because last year he did have a few touchdowns. So
Yeah. And it seems like I mean, we talk about regression a lot on this show. I mean, Evan Ingram's playing good ball right now. Let me click the PPR filter here. I mean, he's currently tight end 7, 51 receptions and no touch. Look at everybody else around him has multiple touchdowns except for Taysom Hill, but he gets his other ways.
he's
So
getting touchdowns.
this could be one of those games where Evan Ingram gets 2 touchdowns, something crazy like that. So I do think he's due, and he's probably worth at this point of the season. It's probably worth throwing even half a unit
Sprinkle.
to a unit at Ingram touchdown because it's coming.
Hmm.
So I think that's a good note there. Does either quarterback rush for a touchdown in this one, Purdy or Lawrence? Purdy's actually surprised me with his rushing ability this season.
I think neither team is afraid to sneak it in,
Right.
especially T-Law, big body, if they get near the goal line, and they get maybe if ETN gets stuffed once in the second and goal, they try and push it up there. So, I mean, not a bad play in a game that I think we're expecting touchdowns.
And Jacksonville has allowed 3 rushing touchdowns to the quarterback this season. Also, Jacksonville's got 11 interceptions on the year. I think that leads the league. And then the 49ers down here. Where is San Francisco?
They way
Pretty tough
down.
defense. They haven't allowed a rushing touchdown to quarterbacks here, but 10 passing touchdowns, 11 interceptions as well. I guess New Orleans has 12 interceptions here. But we did want to note too, if you go all the way down on the fantasy points allowed chart, you can see the heat map version. And Jacksonville here lights up green against QB, receiver, and tight end. So we think it's going to be a good passing game for Purdy. And then the 49ers here lighting up green against wide receivers. So that's your Christian Kirk. That could even be Ridley and Evan Ingram in a little bit here. So fun game. Did you want to note anything else on the passing, or should we look at some of the rushing receiving numbers?
Yeah, no, I think pretty standard. I mean, T-Law plus 110 to throw two is
Yeah,
not
that's fun.
I mean, like 49ers have thrown, allowed 10 touchdowns all year through the air. I don't expect them to stay that stingy. We'll see how this goes. I think it's going to be a fun game.
Well, we saw what Kirk Cousins did against them in that one game. So
Anything is possible.
they got well, they have Purdy at 8.5 rushing yards. I mentioned I like his scooting abilities. Christian McCaffrey 65.5 seems kind of low, but again, we mentioned the Jags are actually okay against limiting running backs. ETN, people are kind of leaning into this one at 65.5. I think this is just one of those games where I like pretty much anything anything in it.
Yeah, and I think the receiving yards, I think they reset all the numbers. Maybe with Zay Jones kind of
Yeah,
confirmed out now, but they kind of reset everything, so everything's fresh for you. Go in and get what you want before. I'm we're going to wake up in that Christian Kirk 54.5 is either going to be higher or it's going to be minus 130, 140. Brandon Ayuk, we considered putting on the lock list at 64.5. We talk about wide receiver ones in the low 60 range in a game where, we already highlighted the Jags defense, not very good. And Brandon Ayuk is a true alpha. I mean, he gets open the most out of any receiver in the NFL. He's really talent-wise, probably top 5 in the league. And I think San Francisco realizes that getting Debo helps.
And Trent.
Yeah, and we can't forget. I mean, Trent on the left is huge.
Give some time. Reception numbers real quick. People are destroying. So this is why we kind of lean into the Kirk over receiving yards, because his receptions are just getting lit up here. People are saying he's going to get over 4.5. People saying Evan Ingram over 5.5 at minus 120. So maybe look at his yards. Look at his touchdown.
49ers are pretty good against the tight end.
They allow about 9.5 points here. So this is weird that DraftKings is liking Ingram so much.
Give me the touchdown.
I think we're talking ourselves into the Evan Ingram touchdown tomorrow. So if you're
maybe a little DFS,
yeah,
stack
might be fun. But and then there's people liking the Ayuk over 4.5. I think we've talked about that enough.
How crazy is it that Evan Ingram is the most,
highest reception?
They're giving him the highest reception total, and people are taking it.
He's got 51 receptions on the year, divided by 8 games. That puts you right at about 6 receptions per game.
He's there. I mean, he's.
It could be a nice opportunity with dump offs too, and with that pass rush too for the 49ers. Are we going to see what's his name, Chase Young, for the 49ers this weekend?
Sheesh. Oh yeah, off a bye week.
Yeah, he's coming. So
good week to have Trent Williams back.
Well,
other side of the ball.
Yeah. But I think this leans into the narrative of the Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram that we're liking in the short area passing game. Yeah. Not so much Calvin Ridley, but we're liking Kirk, Ingram, and then maybe a little bit of ETN in there, who's not listed as a reception total. But super fun game here. Did we want to hit on another game or two? We're almost approaching our 30-minute mark, Jesse.
I got a player in mind that we did not put on our bets, but a David Montgomery touchdown. He's back.
Oh, God, he's back. He's back, baby.
Against the Chargers. I mean, one of the worst teams against running backs.
I want to look that number up real quick and see how many rushing touchdowns the Chargers have allowed. Dun, dun, dun. Not too bad. Okay. They allowed 5 on the year, 0 receiving, but that's the Rams. My bad. Where are the Chargers? Down here.
4. Okay. It's yards. So they're giving up a lot of catches to the running back. So maybe this is a Jahmyr Gibbs.
Well, that's the thing that I'm interested to see is what is this split? For me, the numbers make sense for Montgomery to get about 15 to 18 touches and Gibbs about 10 to 12. I think there's room for 25 to 30 total running back touches in this game here. And I think with Montgomery getting hurt already once, they're like, we have Super Bowl aspirations here. We have to make sure we're keeping everybody healthy and not overloading anybody with workload. But the usage is going to be pretty predictable. Montgomery in short situations and goal line situations. Gibbs, they don't really trust Gibbs on third down pass pro, though. So Montgomery still might be pass protecting and blocking, but they're still going to throw the ball to Gibbs. We like the Eckler. We like the Monty touchdown in this one. Keenan's probably going to score. Honestly, you can just take all 5 of these guys to score and see what happens. We didn't even talk about Sam Laporta in this one. So there's like literally 6 workhorses, but Montgomery, excited to have him back. That's going to bring the physicality back to the Lions. Did we want to look at any of the numbers inside of this one?
I mean, with the way that the Chargers are giving up dump offs to running backs, it makes me a little bit intrigued to see what Jahmyr Gibbs numbers are looking like right now.
People are liking it. 2.5.
Yeah, I mean that probably is 3 catches makes sense there.
No David Montgomery listed on receptions. I'd be curious if that was at 0.5 or 1.5. Not sure if I'm into that either way. But so they're giving Gibbs 3 receptions. I think I saw him at low yards of about like 18 or 19. Yeah, 17.5 yards. Let's do that. Yeah. Should we put this on the list?
That's pretty nice. What's his total? Like, what's his rush plus receiving on this slate here? I think you gotta go there. Okay,
so
they're giving him
a lot of rushing yards.
They're giving him about 40 rush yards, 41 rush yards, 58.5 total though. Still feels like a pretty good number. I mean, Yeah, I mean, let's just, this is the process here. We know that we know that the Chargers are giving it up, right? And it's Jahmyr Gibbs is, the cat's out of the bag on Jahmyr Gibbs, right? Even with Monty back, he's at least earned himself, would you say 40% of the work here?
Yeah. And I just filtered the Chargers are allowing the second most receptions to
Yes, I
running
mean,
backs.
here
Uh,
here here's the receiving situation. It's 5 for 37 last week, 9 for 58 the week before, 4 for 11 the week before that. So 2.5 is far too low. I think 3 feels like a good number. Uh, I mean, he's clobbering yards. He's at over 50. See, 51, over 100, over almost 200 yards, obviously, last week against Las Vegas. Even against Baltimore, very interesting to note, a very good rushing team.
mhm.
He did have a touchdown. He had 68 yards rushing. He had 58 yards through the air against a very stingy Baltimore rush defense. So I feel pretty good about Gibbs. And I think, to your point with Monty, if they're going to want to use him in short goal line, but I think they do believe that they need him to really kind of be there, in the end. So where maybe they were holding Jahmyr back early in the year, maybe they hold Monty back a little bit towards the end of the year. Let him do what he needs to do, but not force the issue. Or they just, Dan Campbell says F it and just
This is our horse.
shucks his man. I don't know. It's hard to predict that, man.
I like the 60-40% splits for the touches. I think the snap share might be still heavy in Monty's favor. That might be closer to 70-30. But when Gibbs is on the field, he's probably getting the ball more often than not. But we've identified Gibbs over 2.5 receptions, Gibbs over 17.5 receiving yards, and Gibbs over 58.5 rushing yards plus receiving yards.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Gibbs is the guy. If so, we mentioned wanting to put a CD Lamb bet at number 9. Let's just get the 10th bet out of the way.
Let's get that Gibbs.
Do you want the 2.5, the layup?
That feels like the layup. Yeah, I mean that's. Do you want to give the people the layup?
We'll give the people a layup this week.
Yeah, let's give ourselves a layup. We're doing 10 bets. Let's give the layup.
The layup. And either way, I think the CD Lambs are pretty much layups as well.
Yeah, I would agree.
But
Those feel pretty good. I mean, these are games where good offenses, what the Cowboys are doing, and this is right here in Detroit, LA. We're hoping for some fun here. This could be a really fun, I believe, afternoon game.
So you got Falcons, Cardinals. The Kyler Murray returns pretty exciting to monitor. You have Commanders at Seahawks, which I kind of view as a sneaky competitive game. Commanders have a lot of fight. They throw the ball really well. You have a bunch of players starting to pick up their numbers here. And the Seahawks, man, they're wounded, limping into this one. If they were to drop this game at home, we're going to hear a lot of alarm and panic, I think, in Seattle here, especially if 49ers win and hop them in the NFC West standings. A lot of Drew Lock rumors. But Dallas Cowboys, that's going to be a fantasy bonanza for Cowboys and maybe Saquon Barkley. Jets and Raiders, man, Sunday Night Football. We'll see about that one. Was there one more? One more? There's only 1, 2, 3. Oh, the Lions and the Chargers are the other late game slate. So looking forward to the late slate.
Seahawks, I think we're seeing JSN start to get more involved. We're maybe starting to see, what a first round receiver from Ohio State can do. Because, obviously the track record is good there. We know JSN has the talent. I'm pretty sure it was Garrett Wilson that said that JSN was the best receiver in the room when it was Garrett Wilson, JSN,
Olave,
and Chris Olave, which is a pretty interesting note.
People are buying JSN at 3.5 receptions. Minus 135 feels pretty good. They did list DK at 5.5. People are taking the under on that one. People are taking the over on Lockett 4.5. So I think there's room for all 3 of these receivers to hit 4 to 5 receptions in this one. But with JSN being the lowest, that one makes the most sense. And hey, I did see, because we check out PFF's snaps, routes, charts every week. JSN has matched basically DK and Lockett. They are now basically a 3 wide receiver offense, which was the big question coming into the year. He's basically on the field just as much as these guys, as Lockett and Metcalf, maybe 1 or 2 snaps and routes different. So they are leaning into their personnel to get the best players on the field. And man, JSN, he's got league winning buzz for fantasy
Yeah.
football leagues right now, where he could just be ripping off, floors in the double digits. And if he continues to score touchdowns, man, that's where it's going to be fun. I do want to look at the receiving yards real quick for JSN. 40 and a half feels doable.
It's
I think
probably
he's
right.
I think he's
I could
been over
join
that
you.
the last 2 or 3 games. Man, can I just get a DK Metcalf game, dude? Like it's the Commanders. AJ Brown has gone nuts against this team. DJ Moore's gone nuts against this team. Leave DK Metcalf on the left side of the formation and just have him run up and down that sideline. Good things
Hmm.
will happen with DK Metcalf.
You got to see something from Geno this week.
Yeah,
Washington defense not very good. They're at home. They just got pummeled by the Ravens. I think we gotta see something here.
both quarterbacks at 1.5 passing touchdowns. I think this one's got some sneaky fun upside. But anything else to go over, Jesse, before we get out of here? Any good feelings on the weekend here? We did give the people a good list of props. We're not really excited about Cincinnati and Texans. I think that game's probably under what we're expecting the final score to be.
Yep.
Aaron Jones, Steelers. It's Aaron
Yeah.
Jones versus Deontay Johnson. I think that game's going to be fun. Do we see Jordan Love in the offense take a step forward after a promising outlook last week? I don't know.
Need that offensive line to really kind of hold
Yeah.
against a really good Pittsburgh D line. So might be dump off city there. So I know you're going to give your super special deep, prop of the week.
Yeah, let's open it up
You
here.
Green Bay boy.
So the Packers are running basically 4 wide receivers in a game right now. Obviously, it's Watson, Dobbs, and Jaden Reed, but their 4th receiver is rookie Dontavian Wicks, who has been pretty productive. And he's actually he led the team last week in receiver targets and receptions. He did have a fumble last weekend, but Dontavian Wicks coming in here at 12.5 receiving yards. I believe he's hit that in 3 straight games, if not 4. And you come on down here to the receptions totals. He only needs 2 catches in this one, and that one's plus 124. If I were to open this up here for you guys, let's look at those numbers from the last handful of games. 2 for 28, 4 for 49. These games here, Denver and Las Vegas, only 1 catch, but 10 and 17 yards. But after the bye week here, his numbers are starting to ramp up, and it's a sneaky but ugly bet if you're feeling frisky. Keep an eye on Dontavian Wicks in a game where we expect, again, Steelers elite pass rush, Packers not so elite offensive line anymore. Jordan Love's gonna have to get the ball out quick. Hopefully Matt LaFleur understands this. But yeah, man. Anything else to add on the Packers offense? We love Aaron Jones in this one. I think
we like the Jones.
The Aaron Jones touchdown this week is plus 160. If you're going to bet on one Packer to score a touchdown, it's probably him. Yep. I don't know, man. Excited. Jesse and I are going to be hanging out watching football tomorrow, so we'll get we'll get a lot of these bets, and I'm probably going to have to take this whole list here just to live with the people. But either way,
ride or die.
Good luck, guys, this weekend. Enjoy the football. Last week was so bad. There was a down, our weekly fantasy points were down last week. A lot of that was due to bye weeks. And guess what? Eagles, Chiefs, Dolphins, all on bye this week. Are we going to get good football this week? I don't know. But we'll figure it out together. But either way, guys, thanks for hanging out. Enjoy. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.